If you were sitting talking to young Yosh and you're that guy that he knocks on the door and he just says, hey, tell me how I do this thing, what are you telling that guy?
What do I tell that guy? I did a couple of gospel things with a guy named Sanchez Harley. He's a great producer.
Sanchez, yeah.
And he says, hey, Yosh, I'm producing this Kirk Franklin record. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And he said, we're going to go to LA and mix it. Kirk didn't even come to the studio till the third day. And then everything was, went really well.
And this album, which album was this?
It's called The Rebirth.
So you mixed Rebirth of Kirk Franklin. That was your first Kirk Franklin record you mixed?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I hesitate to say this.
Say it.
A lot of people will just say, oh, go play, but give them no direction. Or if you know that particular drummer or bass player is intuitively can play the best thing, don't get in their way.
Yeah.
Know when to not get in their way. Know when to tell them, no, don't play that, play this.
Wow.
Part of the problem on some of the records is the drums just aren't recorded very well in the first place, or they didn't choose the right...
Yeah.
They didn't choose the right snare for the song, or sometimes that can be the problem too. In Nashville, as a drummer, you have to have an arsenal of snares if you're going to fit in with any given song.
Right.
So pick the right snare, record it properly,
Yeah.
make it sound the way you want it
Yeah.
as you're printing it to Pro Tools or whatever DAW you're using, or if you're using analog, whatever. Pick the snare that fits the song.
I can almost feel the virtual audience saying, ask him this question, ask him this question. So as you were developing and building out that career, I know that in that period, I know you said you worked on a lot of like contemporary Christian music, CCM for lack of a better word.
Right.
But it's different from today's CCM.
Yeah,
it's the whole different. That's like your Amy Grants and all of those people.
Yeah, Amy Grant. We had a group called East to West.
East to West. I remember East to West. Yeah,
and
a lot of those types of things. So you was working on a lot of that stuff. But now, were you working on any like mainstream gospel stuff during that?
I would still go back because I still had the relationship with Benson Records. So there were gospel artists that I would work with in between, and. So I would be doing gospel music, contemporary Christian music, but not as much.
Not as much in that period.
And then the country stuff. And then there was a point in country music, and it's not like it is today where you can network on Facebook and LinkedIn and all these, social media things.
Yeah.
You were networking with, let's say you had it in at Warner Brothers. So I had during this period, my networking was basically around Warner Brothers and Atlantic Records.
Okay.
And we had just finished this John Michael Montgomery record, and then the president of the label loved the record. He liked working with me, and then he moved to New York. So I lost that connection because I think they actually closed down Atlantic Records.
Wow. Yeah.
In Atlantic Nashville at that time.
Yeah.
And so you lose that connection. And then a few weeks later, three of the guys that I was working with at Warner Brothers, they all got fired. All the guys that hired me to do stuff all the time, they all got fired because they cleaned house, at Warner Brothers. And then it's not like it is today where you can
go find these
or
EDM
just find people
DM
on
them or Instagram.
It wasn't the same. We're talking like 1997, 98.
Yeah, the internet
isn't happening. You can barely do email. You're still using a baud modem. There's no Facebook. There's no MySpace. There isn't even MySpace.
Wow.
Gosh,
that's true.
So you have to go door to door and knock on doors to get work, or hang out. You had to hang out at the right restaurant and meet somebody, right?
Yeah.
So
that's so awesome.
I was still doing a little bit of country, and then I was doing a little bit of gospel and some contemporary Christian, and then one day I did a couple of gospel things with a guy named Sanchez Harley. He's a great producer.
Sanchez, yeah.
And he says, hey, Yosh, I'm producing this Kirk Franklin record. I'm like, wow, that's cool. And so now it's 2001, and he said, we're going to go to LA and mix it. I said, oh, okay. So So we went to LA and we mixed.
For context at that point, did you know Kirk? Like, did you have any relationship with Kirk at that point?
None at all.
Did you even know
Never met him.
how significant he was in gospel at that point in time?
I knew it because I think I saw him at the Grammys, or I saw him on the Grammys on television.
Yeah.
I didn't know that much about him though.
Got it.
I know. Oh, I know. I guess I hate Stomp. Is that it?
Stomp. Yep. Stomp.
I knew that song because my wife played it all the time.
Wow.
And
so you thought, oh, okay, cool. I get to work with that guy.
Yeah. And so, but I never met him. And then we went to LA and we started mixing. And I think it was on the third day. Kirk didn't even come to the studio till the third day.
Wow.
And then I met him, and then everything was, went really well.
And this album, which album was this?
It's called The Rebirth.
So you mixed Rebirth of Kirk Franklin. That was your first Kirk Franklin record you mixed.
Yeah.
Oh man. And that was like what, 99?
No, 2000.
2000.
It was right after 9/11. No, terrible transition, right? Well, no, and at the time, it was like when you got on an airplane in I think that was November. I think it was November of 2001. I think.
Yeah,
when I went to LA.
After it. So literally,
like you're on the plane and there's only like 10 people on the plane.
It's like COVID, right? It was like
what
happened.
It was like and the flight attendants were U.S. Marshals.
Yeah.
Like you're going, that is not a flight attendant. That's a U.S. Marshal. This guy's like this big and he's got a machine gun. No, he didn't have a machine gun.
I want him serving me drinks. Like what's going on with that? So you mixed this record and that was the relationship. So how many records totally have you done with Kirk? You've done just about all of his major like live records, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done just about all of those.
I mean, I can't name them all, but you can. You probably can better than I.
So Hero, all of those things, all of those records are all. I know. To me, in our circle, a lot of people that really study like gospel, mixing, mastering, engineering, we know the records that you've mixed. But I think for context, just putting context for people that they're probably seeing you for the first time and they don't know. Okay, here's this guy. This is the guy that mixed this record, the guy that mixed that record. But would you say that was would you say that was the catalyst that really? What would you say is that's the catalyst that pushed you like deeper into becoming like the gospel mixing engineer guy that does all this stuff?
Was because people had forgotten about commissioned a little bit, but then they put it together.
They started branching out at that point. By that point, they were branching out and doing their own thing.
Yeah. And so, it was definitely because of Kirk. I owe a lot to him and doing that record, and it pushed me into more work in gospel music again.
It just snowballed from there. So where did your next connections and records to start building that repertoire?
Part of it, it was interesting. At the time, my connections, that was interesting. When I was working on Kirk Franklin on that record, the head of A&R at Gospel Centric was a woman named Monica Bacon.
Yeah.
And so when I first met Monica, we were in the studio, and she someone, I think Sanchez introduced me to her, and she's like looking at me like, oh, okay, nice to meet you, whatever. And then, and so then we're working on the record, and I meet Kirk, and then a few days later, we're working, and I think what happened was Dawkins and Dawkins were in the studio too. Yeah. Because I'd worked with Dawkins and Dawkins when they were like 18 or 19 years old in Detroit, and they lived in LA then, and they were working on some record, and there were 3 studios at Gospel Centric, three, like a small little mix room, or the big mix room, and then a small overdub room, and then another mix room. And I think what happened was Dawkins came in, and I said, "Hey man, how you doing? It's good to see you guys again. But what are you doing out here?" I'm working on Kirk Franklin, and Monica's in the hallway, and She says, yeah. And Dawkins says something like, yeah, man, it was fun back in the commission days and blah, blah. And Monica looks up. She goes, what? You work with Commission and Fred Hammond?
Yeah.
And I went, yeah, I did all their records. And she goes, she looks at me and she goes, all of a sudden it was like a different person. Yeah. She starts smiling. She goes, John Yosh, you mean you've been here for 4 or 5 days? You never told me you work with Fred Hammond and Commission?
Wow.
What? And then she starts giving me hugs.
Yeah. And then those hugs turned into checks.
Exactly. So we're very successful with the Rebirth of Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
And
was
so
that your
then
first
Monica,
Grammy?
Huh?
Was that your first Grammy?
I didn't win a Grammy.
Oh, that one didn't win a Grammy. Okay. So
no.
We'll get to
so anyways, but because of that, and because all of a sudden she put that all together, that because she couldn't figure out why I was mixing a Kirk Franklin record, because she had never heard of me and didn't know the history, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to networking. They had just started MySpace at this point in 2001. If we were lucky, that was how you networked. I don't even think they had MySpace. Maybe they did.
I think it was close around, and I think I remember having MySpace page around that time.
So then, because it was came out and it was really good, then she was hiring me, for all the artists on Gospel Centric, and then would tell other people about me. Yeah. She would, she facilitated that. It was like having a mini manager in a way. Monica Bacon, if you're out there, I love you.
Yeah.
And she would tell people about me, and people would hire me to do their records, and we did a whole bunch of records for Gospel Centric during that period, and for other labels too, because they started hearing about me. And then also back in Nashville, there was EMI Gospel.
Oh, yeah.
And I knew Ken Pennell was the head of EMI Gospel, and he started out at Benson Records. He worked at Benson Records, and then when he was let go at Benson Records, he started his own label with EMI, and he knew of me, and so then I was getting work from Gospel Centric and from EMI Gospel, because we already had a relationship, and he started up this label, so I would get some of the artists that were on EMI Gospel. Man. But you had to have relationships like that, personal relationships where you actually talk to people and weren't just online like it is today. Yeah.
But that's it's a lost art but you were even though you say you weren't networking, you were networking just in a different way.
Just the original networking way.
Yeah, it was more personal. It's a guy that knows a guy that knows a guy that connects you with this guy.
I didn't even go into detail, but like even when I was in the beginning of trying to get country music, I would actually go and visit the studios like on my off days, just to meet other engineers and producers at the studios or talk to the studio owners and get a feel for things. You'd have to go hang out with.
You didn't intern or anything like that.
No.
Because you're way past all of that.
Yeah, I'm past that, but you're still trying to make contacts to get more work, and do other things, because you don't want to just have one genre, of work. And so like I would hang out, I would meet the studio owners, and I joined the Audio Engineering Society, and you start meeting people that way too, other engineers and studio owners. And then you can go to lunch with those guys and hang out with them. And then they'll, oh yeah, you know what? There's a project coming up, maybe you can do this one, whatever. And so that's how you got projects.
Wow.
Then actually at one point I remember,
man, you know what's crazy? And you know what really elevates a track? Having the right drums. And speaking of drums, if you haven't checked out Yosh's Drum Warehouse yet, you're seriously missing out. We connected with John Yosh, a 7-time Grammy Award winner, and we packed over 600 plus multi-sample sounds that work with any DAW and are perfectly formatted for Trigger 2. We're talking tons of snares, kicks, toms, and so much more. You name it, it's in this sample pack. So whether you're on Logic, Ableton, Pro Tools, Cubase, Bitwig, whatever you got, it's all here. It's ready to take your production to the next level. Seriously, go grab it right now. gospelproducers.com. All right, back to the show.
One studio owner, his name's Carl Tatz, who is the inventor of the Phantom Focus system, Carl Tatz Design.
Wow.
He called me up. he goes, got to come over and see my studio, man. So I went over and saw his studio, and then he introduced me some other people, and I got work out of that, and that's how you got work back then.
It's such a lost art, like I said, because everything is so digital now, and everything is so impersonal, and it's text messages, it's DMs, and you still do that, but I think I remember that period of time before the internet really became the internet,
Right.
where, like you said, you had to actually call somebody, or you had to go, like I would go up to Nashville and try to sit on sessions, or I'd go to different,
Right.
we go to sheds, as we call them back in the day, and meet other musicians and meet other, people that were doing things in music. That was the only way you could really get like connected. And then of course there's the whole intern space that a lot of people, like I know Blast, that's how he got in the industry, was through interning with you.
Yeah.
And
and he,
those different things.
and he actually bugged me, my manager at the time, Nicole Cochran, to want to be an intern, and I'm like, I don't know if I need an intern. Oh, I'll do it. Sure.
Yeah.
Cause he kept talking to her and talking, calling me and stuff. And so then,
on the door and
and that's how it was even for me. Like I had to beat I kept bugging my instructor to be on those sessions, and then meeting the owner of a studio, you had to actually talk to him. And then I met this other guy named, I think his name was John Mike on Facebook. But it was that was interesting. We won't go into detail right now, but it just so happened somehow. I think it was John. Was it John or was it Adam and I? We had something on Facebook, and you were doing this little class, and we saw it, and it was live.
Yep.
And we started watching it, and
you came in a chat, and we were like.
And I started chatting with you. And so that was an example of network. I went from network face to face to now we're on social media, looking, and I wasn't trying to, get in your stuff or anything, but I saw it and I thought it was interesting. I thought you were an interesting guy, what you were doing, what you were trying to do.
I almost had a stroke.
Yeah, but that
honest. I mean, because think about it. I mean, I told you, like at this point, we're studying. Like you're the guy that we're studying. We're studying Yosh. We're studying your sound. Like I told you, I would just sit and I would listen, and I'd be I beat up on like, why don't my drums sound like that? Why don't my drums sound like that? I used to like just try to figure it out. Like me and my friend, we, like I said, good group chats, things. We'd be like, take a listen to this drum track I just recorded. Take this drum. Wow. And then like, nah, man, it's getting there. Doesn't sound like Yosh yet, but it's getting there. We would literally have those conversations. And so, to be doing something and then have you like literally just pop in, and it's like one of those things like, nah, that's not Johnny Jazz. That's not, nah. And it's like, no, that's Yosh. That's really Yosh.
But when I saw what you were doing, I thought, this is a cool idea. And that's probably why when you said you wanted to be, when we finally did talk to each other and you said, I want you to can we do a mix class? And I said, no, I want to do a tracking class. Because you were doing a tracking session that day. And I saw things you were doing wrong. And I noticed that. I noticed something. I remember we both. I can't remember. It was John and I. Yeah. What year was it? It would have been.
It had to be like 16.
Yeah. So it was actually Adam.
It happened to 2 years.
It was Adam and I, and we're going. Why are they doing that? We need to talk to them. Yeah. Why are they doing that to the drums or something? I don't remember. It wasn't that big. It wasn't that far off. But it was a little thing we noticed. I'm like, man, I'd like to talk to these guys and maybe talk to them about, like recording stuff right from scratch and getting the best sound you can possibly get. And that's how it came about.
But that, you don't understand that conversation is the reason we are sitting in this studio right now.
Yeah, it's true.
It's literally the reason we're sitting in this studio.
Yeah.
That conversation created a domino effect of, let's do a class.
Yeah.
The class turns into, so for context, and I don't think I've ever really told this story in this, but so I was doing gospel multi-tracks. Of course, you know that. We was doing the multi-track thing. That's what drove the whole thing. So the whole standpoint of that business was trying to recreate popular gospel songs, because we couldn't get, at that time, multi-tracks and stems was still a relatively new thing in the gospel world. Most didn't understand it. Churches weren't really using it. And so I had to spend a lot of time trying to educate people on what stems were, and all of those things like that. So we were doing classes and we were doing things like that in order to try to engage our base and try to get them to understand. Because I'm like, if I can teach you what this thing is, and you understand it, and you understand how beneficial it can be to your live church services, then you'll buy tracks from us, and we'll make money, and we'll make a living, and we can sustain this business. And so I was doing a lot of those type things, and so that's where the whole chase began on how do I get my drums to sound like the drums that are on the original. You know what I mean? How do I differentiate what I'm doing from the guy that's doing a sequence or using Logic to and using key drums? Like, I'm recording real drums every day, like you were talking about. Like, I was the guy that was sitting in the studio, like, recording drums and just trying to chase that sound, trying to figure it out. And so so then I started, like I said, doing the whole education thing, teaching people how to create tracks, how to create stems. And so to run across, you in that space. And then we started talking about doing the mixing and recording class. So I started thinking, okay, how do I do this? Because, okay, I have a multi-tracks business where we teach people how to record stuff for church, but I got the gospel goat here that has mixed everything gospel in the last 40 years.
Right.
It's two different audiences we're talking to at this point. I can't do this on the multi-tracks thing. This is something different, because I'm gonna be talking to a different
that's
audience.
how you started Gospel
And
Producers.
So I went and bought a domain. I went and searched it. It's gospelproducers.com. This is it. It exists. Nobody's got it. So I started gospelproducers.com. I literally bought that domain name with nothing else in mind. I'm just going to do this class with John Yosh, because this is a separate thing. We're going to do this class. We're going to put it out there. We're going to see what happens. And then I'm going to go back to doing my multi-tracks thing. And this will be like a nice little
sideline thing.
Like some sideline thing. Just something I got a chance to do.
Yeah.
And I can take that knowledge of learning how to record, sitting with Yosh and learning how he mixes and seeing how he records. I can take that knowledge back to the gospel multi-track thing, and we can make better tracks.
Exactly.
That was the whole purpose. But then that did what it did. It went, did really, really well for us. And then that's when you said, hey, I think Aaron would be good, a good guy to do. So we did a class with Aaron. And then we did another class with Jamel Kimbrough, that was Todd Delaney's producer.
Right.
And then we did another class with, I can't remember, Paris Bowens, God rest his soul. Did a class with him. Then we did a class with Herb Powers. And it just kept snowballing from there and just kept snowballing. But the root of it is...
Kevin, too.
And Kevin, in class with Kevin. I mean, and it just kept snowballing, and then it turns into products, and it turns into templates, and then it turns into plugins, and then it just snowballs into a podcast. And now John Yosh now I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and
I'm in North Carolina,
and you're in North Carolina, and we're sitting having a conversation, and I'm like, how did we go from, hey, this is really cool, on a Facebook post, to sitting talking?
And it's all because I picked up the NS10s at United Sound in 1985 or 4, whatever it was.
All hinges on that.
It is. I'm positive. All of it started that day, even though I worked with Commission before that. But from that point on, from when I met Fred and Mike that second time, even though we'd already mixed some stuff, that changed the course of everything.
Wow.
And then there was like some turnarounds and some different things. And then when I did Kirk, then it changed again.
So it's like some multiverse type stuff. It's like if you don't meet Mike on this day, Mike Brooks out of this day, coming out of United
There's no
Sound
question. I've thought about
you don't meet John Mike. If you don't meet Mike in 88, you don't meet John Mike in 18.
And you don't meet Kirk Franklin either.
You don't meet Kirk Franklin.
You don't meet Sanchez Hartley.
You don't meet Sanchez Hartley.
You don't meet Dan Cleary. You don't meet any of those people in Nashville. It all started on that day. I thought about this many times.
Wow.
It did. Even though, because there was this, we did this first record, and I don't think I would ever have seen them again, because they were happy with the record, but like I said, back in Detroit, people were looking for different studios, and they just go to another studio and try different things. It wasn't always about the engineer or anything working with as a team. It was just like, oh, we go to the studio because it has a cool drum sound, maybe, and whatever. And that's how. So cool. And so when I talked him into coming over to Studio A, that's where it led to everything else. Wow. And it led to all of it, from that to country, CCM, all that stuff.
So cool, man. It's so many different. I love having these like conversations like this, because again, like, yes, we could talk tech stuff and technical and what compressor is this and what you're using for this and what you're doing for that and what this, but I think I hope the value that people understand, that I've always tried to do and accomplish with these podcasts and bring people in, is listen to their story. Take the time to really understand, because the sum total of what you hear in a mix or in a production or in a sound or that thing that you like about that person really has zero to do with what they're using, and more so it's the sum total of all of their experiences compressed into this thing that you love about them. So your drums sound the way that they sound because of the time that you spent with Bootsy Collins and all of these guys back in the 80s, and all of that time that you spent working on 16-track and 24-track recordings, and all the time you spent with Commission doing this thing. It all stacks and compounds with interest up until this moment. And now we press play on a song and we hear these drums that just go, and you're like, how does he get that sound? Well, you got to go back to the 80s with Commission and all those guys. And same with the vocals. How does he get such big sounding vocals? How does he get such da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And it's all the sum total.
Yeah, it's just experience
of your experience. Yeah, and so it for some, it might seem, they may click on a podcast and they're listening to it and they're thinking like, oh, this is boring. It's talking about history and it's talking about Dan Cleary. I want to know what
microphones are they using?
What microphones are they using?
Plug-in did they use on that thing?
Plug-in of this thing. No, it's like, listen to the story. Like the plug-in can only do what he makes it do because of what he learned through experience over here.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love like having like detailed conversations and really like listening. Like I'll call and listen to your stories all day, because I learn so much more listening to your stories than I actually have like watching you mix, watching you do all those things, because it shows me how you make decisions.
I don't think I'd be here right now if it weren't for Hurricane Helene.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. I know under such pretense, but I'm glad you're here for that.
Yeah.
But I will ask a couple of like technical questions anyway. So just for the gram, as they say, like, do it for the gram. What are some of the key pieces of equipment or plugins or things like that you really just for kicks and giggles and such? Like you got some $1,700 headphones over there. I think we were talking about.
Yeah, thank you, Manny Marcoin.
Yeah, so put those things. Let me see those things. Yeah, put those things up so we can see them on camera. Like they're right there. You showing me these things. They sound amazing. What are these? The Audio Ease.
And those are the Manny Marcoin headphones that he
17, and right now they're $1,700.
Yeah, I think they were 13 when I got them, but they're up now for some reason. Inflation, I guess.
Yeah. You probably realized the supply chain, what it's going to cost him to make these are really cool though. Like the design of them, and and I put them on. They're really comfortable and stuff too.
Yeah,
like,
they sound really good.
Comfortable.
And they're very comfortable. You can wear them for a long period of time.
And so you've been using you've used these as reference for mixing and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
This is part of your processes with the but I'm pretty sure you tell me you could do the same with a $300 pair of headphones. I'm sure. No. You got to have the $1,700 headphones.
I guess. I don't know. I still rely on speakers most of the time. Honestly.
And what's your speakers of choice? Yo, that's wild. That's wild. You know what else is wild? the fact that you probably haven't heard of Peculiar Sounds yet. Listen, if you need those unique, soulful sounds to really bring a track to life, then Peculiar Sounds V2 has just what you need. We're talking signature keys, synths, pads, plus hundreds of MIDI files that make it super easy to jumpstart your creativity. All of these are curated and sampled by the one and only legendary Doobie Powell. It's perfect for gospel, R&B, or any genre that needs that rich type of vibe. And guess what? It works with any DAW. It's standalone, all of those things like that. So if you could do me a favor, jump down in the description, head on over to gospelproducers.com and take your sound to the next level. All right, back to the show.
Right now I'm using the Adams A7s.
Now, have you always been, because I know some of the...
I've been using them since the, no, not the 90s, since about 2008.
That's when you got into Adams?
7.
That's when you first pair of Adams?
Yeah.
What were you using before, the NS10s and stuff before then?
No. Well, I used NS10s for years, probably from 1980 to somewhere in the 90s, and then I went over to the Mackie H. What was the number on the Mac? They were Mackie speakers.
I remember.
We used those because they were powered speakers, and you could take them to any studio and kind of judge. Once you got them in the room, you could judge what you basically go from studio to studio and figure out if your speakers, you play different material and get used to the room with those speakers. And they worked out pretty well because they were self-powered. But I went through a bunch of different speakers. I said, I did NS10s for a long time, but they really wear your ears out. NS10s.
That's all I've heard. Yeah, I think I've only heard a set of NS10s like maybe once or twice in my life. Like been in the studio that had them and like listened to them at that space or what have you.
It's just a thing that basically, but blame it all on Bob Clearmountain. No. And probably Chris Lord-Alge and Tom Lord-Alge. They made that, you saw Chris, Bob Clearmountain using them in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so, probably starting in like 1979 or something, they started using them a lot in New York City. And so I saw that. And so that's just kind of what the standard became in almost every studio.
Got it. Like SSL.
And if you made it sound good on those, it usually sounded good on everything else. Once you figured it out,
you
had to listen to material through it. Once you figured out what that sound was, then you could match the sound with those speakers, and then it would translate. And but then after a while, I just couldn't handle it because there's a big bump. I guess at 3K or something. And it wears your ears out. It's very harsh. And you're always trying to tame down those frequencies. And I just thought after a while, that doesn't make any sense, though. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to see, let's try different speakers, So I tried, I went through a bunch of different things.
But you finally settled with Adam. That just kind of really what you fell in love with. And so
I don't necessarily think they're the best either.
But you think it's just over the years because kind of like brand loyalty, almost like it's because you've been using them for so long. When if you go to buy a new set of monitors today, you're probably going to buy the new set of Adams probably. Or if Carl Tatz will give me the Phantom Focus system, I would use because those are my favorites. My favorite speakers are Carl Tatz's Phantom Focus system when they're set up properly in a studio. I love listening to mixes on those speakers. Wow. And they're really good. Yeah. He actually has his own speakers now, and then the amps and everything that come with it, and they shoot the room and they make them sound perfect in any room. They're really nice sounding speakers. Wow. So for monitors, and of course I know you're using Pro Tools is your DAW of choice.
Yeah. Just because I'm used to it. I'm too old school to learn anything else.
Any outboard that you use in your mixing, or is it 100% in the box?
It's all in the box. Yeah.
All in the box.
There was a time when I'd work on a console, it was a hybrid mixing Pro Tools into a console, and I'd use an Avalon. I always had whatever console I was on. Whether if it was an SSL, it had an SSL compressor, and then I would probably have like an Avalon limiter / EQ on the 2 mix. When it was a hybrid, the reason why I went in the box was because so many, first of all, for instant recall, obviously, because definitely. People always want to change things. Second, the consoles just were becoming unreliable everywhere you went. It didn't matter what studio. It didn't matter whether it was in Los Angeles or in Dallas or in wherever, in Nashville.
Yeah.
You'd be working on a track and all of a sudden the left side of the piano goes out or something. And you're like, all of a sudden you're going like this. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then you realize a module is bad and you got to switch out a module and it takes 10 minutes to do stuff, and it would happen all the time. It didn't matter what studio you were at.
Yeah.
Hopefully maybe they're better maintained. Probably at this studio, they're better maintained. Yeah. In Nashville, I never had a problem at Blackbird on their consoles, but in most studios that would have old SSLs and stuff, it became a problem. So I started to learn how to do it in the box.
Yeah.
And one day I took home some stuff that I had mixed analog and I started mixing it in the box and I went, well, this sounds really good.
Yeah.
Let's start doing it this way. Yeah. And I don't have to rely on the consoles being true to me.
Yeah.
And so I started doing it in the box. And I remember one project, it was mastered at Abbey Road, and the engineer and producer, they actually thought it was mixed on an analog console.
Wow.
But it wasn't.
But you bring all of that experience that you had with analog.
Yeah, I mean, because I can hear that. I knew what it should sound like.
Yeah, you know what an SSL is.
But I just got better at it. I just kept. I figured out ways around it, and it was around 2010 when the technology, when they started emulating some analog stuff in the plugins, and it would make things sound warmer or whatever, more analog-ish.
Yeah.
Certain plugins would do that.
So what would you say is some of your go-to plugins and why would you choose said plugin, or what made you?
Well, one of the things that really changed it was the PSP Vintage Warmer 2.
Yeah, I noticed that. You suggested that to me as a kind of the final thing in the chain.
It works really well. I mean, there's other things. I mean, it's just what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And it still works for me. Wow. And there's the Abbey Road compressor limiter with its EQ is good on the.
That's the one Waves makes. Yeah.
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 And I use. I mean, I use a lot of Waves plugins.
Yeah.
They all work really well, Chris Lord-Alge's done a great job with his CLA stuff. All that stuff is really good.
Yeah.
But so with, the couple of those things and just some of the Waves SSL EQs and things like that, I can do a mix with minimal stuff if I have to.
So if you had to, I know, like I'll press you on a couple of things because I know I can almost feel the virtual audience saying, ask him this question. So drum samples.
I don't do any drum samples. None.
So I know it's a big thing, and it's also a point of contention a lot of times in our community. I see a lot of this conversation. I've been a part of a lot of these I'll call them passionate debates where drummers kind of get upset because they recorded on said song, it comes in, they hear the mix, and their snare was in their mind replaced, which we know a lot, which I know you don't replace a snare net technically unless it's egregiously like terrible.
Yeah,
you mostly layer build and stack to make it kind of cut through a little bit better.
And I do that because so much gospel music is so dense. It's hard to get the drums to cut through the way you want them.
So what would you say to a lot? Is that basically the message to drummers? Get over it. No, I'm just saying.
No. I mean, part of the problem on some of the records is the drums just aren't recorded very well in the first place, or they didn't choose the right.
Yeah.
They didn't choose the right snare for the song, or sometimes that can be the problem too, or whatever. Each song you can't, I mean, you can't always have the same snare on every song.
Right.
And so when you're doing a production and you're cutting the drums for a song,
mm-hmm.
if you put up a snare and you cut, let's say you do take one or something, or just not even calling it take one, you're just doing a rundown, come in the control room and say, and listen to all the elements that are in that rhythm track. Does that snare and do those toms fit into this song?
Yeah.
You know, well, and it's mostly the snare, you know, drummers have their cymbals and things that they use, but like in Nashville, the studio drummers, when they come to the studio, they'll bring 12 different snare drums.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you have to have an arsenal. As a drummer, you have to have an arsenal of snares if you're going to fit in with any given song. And the decision is between you and the producer and / possibly the engineer, or it's usually a combination of those three people that decide, does this fit in with this song?
Right.
So pick the right snare, record it properly.
Yeah.
Make it sound the way you want it as you're printing it to Pro Tools or whatever DAW you're using, or if you're using analog, whatever, pick the snare that fits the song.
Yeah.
And then you won't have to do as much later.
Yeah.
And get a clean sound in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made records where I don't have any samples because I recorded the drums from the beginning, and we got the sound, and we built the track around that sound.
Right.
That's the other thing. Build the track around the drums.
Yeah.
You know.
You were saying that earlier with when you was mixing, when you first started mixing the song that you was mixing, and you was like, if I can get the drums where I need them, then I can build everything else around that.
Yeah.
It's just, that was like the focus, because you knew it's like, this is where the impact is going to be, and I stack around that.
Yeah.
But what would you say to the guys that say, because like here's the common argument that I hear, and I want to present it to you because you are the one that's the most qualified to answer it. I really believe this. The common argument is this. This is the common accusation, I'll say, is that gospel, I hear this all the time, gospel engineers are lazy because they, instead of making a drum sound good, they just slap samples on it and just send it out. That's the common accusation that I hear. Gospel engineers are lazy. I see it once a week, at least once or twice a month, maybe. I'm scrolling on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and it's some guy, some drummer, some record that just came out, and they didn't hear the snare that they thought that they recorded or whatever. It doesn't sound the way that they thought it, and then they start throwing that accusation around. These guys are just lazy. They keep throwing these samples. So,
so that particular person, let's just say, did they really think it sounded that great when they listened to playback in the control room? I don't know. But I know that half the time when I get drums in, they don't sound good in the first place.
Wow.
They're not recorded well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these guys are just running these things through, what are these a lot of the churches will have these 32
X32s.
Yeah. And they don't print any EQ or anything to it, and so
it's just raw drums, just regular drums.
And but did they tune the drums correctly? So like if you do a session in Nashville with session drummers, first of all, most of the time, like a drum tech will come in and tune all the drums, and make them perfect before the drummer even gets there, and change the heads. And make sure they're perfect. And they'll have 12 snare drums, and then they pick this right snare. And so long as you're going through a great preamp with a great EQ, like say for instance, when I record, I always use Neve preamps on my drums if they're available, right? And I know what those EQs do, and I know how to tweak the sound so that it sounds as close to a record as possible before I ever add a sample to it. And then we pick the right snare that fits the song at the time of the recording. And then usually it'll make it through the process. Unless unless all of a sudden they put in 1 million tracks and then somehow you got to make it a little bit bigger to cut through all that.
That's different.
But in general, if it's recorded properly in the first place, then you can get that sound. You can get that natural sound if you want it.
Yeah.
It can be done. But most of it's not because we're lazy. We're trying to fix something that's not right in the first place.
Wow.
Now, sometimes we get drums in and they sound pretty good and we can use it.
Yeah.
90% of it. And we just maybe add a little bit to it for ambience or something.
You caught me in there, like maybe, what was it? I think it was earlier today. And you was like, hey, listen to this. And it was because the drummer was using a side snare thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen to it. Like without this has no samples on it. Listen, it sounds great.
Yeah.
I used that. He said, now this one part, because he was doing it in a place where it didn't make sense, I added a sample on there just to make it
a little bit bigger in that one section, just one part.
But the rest of the song,
it was the real snare.
It was the real snare.
Exactly. But it was just, the song got bigger, but the drum didn't get bigger for that part of the song.
Makes sense.
And it couldn't get through it. It didn't have the weight to get through that much information.
Yeah.
But I liked the sound of that snare.
Yeah.
They actually picked the right snare, but just in one spot, it wasn't quite right. So I enhanced it a little bit. It still had the same tone as the original.
Yeah.
So, are we lazy? I don't know. We're just trying to make the best thing we can. And look I fail sometimes. I admit that.
Yeah.
I
think we all do.
Sometimes, I'm not happy with the mixes sometimes. A lot of times, I can hardly listen to anything I do.
Yeah, we were going to lunch and some song came on that you had mixed, some big song.
And I don't want to hear that.
It's like, turn it off. I don't want to hear that. It's like, that's the biggest song she's ever done. That's her claim to fame. I don't want to hear it. You mixed it. I don't want to hear it. But it's that I think I wanted you to say it because it needs to be said to really understand, because like guys like me, I'm still building real clout. I don't know if you want to call that with people, whatever. Some people call it that. But I'm still building like relationships with people. So I say these same things that you said 1 billion times. I remember I was having a conversation with a guy once and I said, look, man, because he was going on and on, moaning and moaning about, that's not my snare. When I record it, that's not the snare that I use. And I just simply said to him, I said, man, if you care that much about your drums, I said, you need to be in the group chat, in the whatever's going on when the producer is having conversations with the engineer. I said, because if it made it to the radio, if it made it to Apple Music or whatever, it's not because the engineer said, thank you for sending me this record. I don't want to hear nothing else you guys got to say ever again. This is my record, and when next time you hear it, it's going to sound the way I want it for it to sound. No,
never do that.
It got there because probably mainly the producer or the label or whoever's the head of that production said, that's it. This is the song. This is it. It probably got replaced because the producer said, I'm not, the snare doesn't sound blah, 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 blah. Can you do whatever to it to make it cut through or whatever? Yeah. I know that's how this works.
It does.
I know this is how this works, but the common knowledge is they think that once it leaves their desk or whatever they did to it, they think that's final, and it shouldn't be changed or it shouldn't be shifted or it shouldn't be. But they lose contact with whoever the creative lead is, and the next time they hear it is when it's on the radio or when it's on whatever, and they hadn't really put that much, into it.
And first of all, the snare or the kick or all this other stuff, none of that's as important as the vocal anyway.
It's the vocal. You know what I mean?
And I mean, unless it's a jazz record.
Yeah, unless it's a jazz.
Then it's whatever the focal point of the jazz record is.
It makes so much sense. And I think that's the thing that I see. I mean, I see it so many times, and I've had this conversation so many times, and I've told them the same thing. It goes back to what you were talking about, recording with the end in mind. Like if a good recording drummer knows this is what this should sound like. This is the right snare. This is how the drum should be tuned. Yeah. This is what the vibe is. This is what the whatever. And they tune for that. They pick the right snare. They pick the right whatever. They know how to dial in the EQ. They know how to dial in the preamp to get that sound, to get that tone or what have you. But if you don't know those things and you're just recording through a Behringer, through an X32, through a M32, whatever 32, and there. If you're recording through that thing and then you send those files off and you didn't do anything to them, you didn't clean the toms yourself, you didn't do any of those things, then you're subject to the next person that gets those files to do with them what they please.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my perspective on it, but having you say it, because I think I'll be honest, I think a lot of the controversy of it centers around a lot of the mixes that you've done. And that's the assumption that they make, thinking that you're just, but we know that, but I think that it's just always been hilarious to me when I see those comments on.
I feel bad that they think that way. I don't know how to, I try to please everybody. Especially with drummers, I try to get all their nuances as well as I can. Ghost notes and things like that, if I can, I'm searching for that stuff.
But it goes back also to what you were saying before. I think another big solve for the issue is what you were saying, as the crux of it all is the arrangements of things. When you have a dense arrangement, when you're trying to get a snare to cut through 42 tracks of aux and 25 percussion tracks,
it's rough,
and 40 background vocals, and then, like you said, the most important thing is the lead vocal.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get the drum just to have some presence through all of that stuff that's sucking up all of the frequency.
It's sucking up all the frequencies. Yeah.
All of the aux is just sucking up all of the frequencies. And it's like, where's the room for it? So the only thing you can do to get it to cut up is just cut through is to just drop this really bombastic, snare room sample to get it to cut through.
Yeah. It's so that you can turn it, you make it big and then you can turn it down so that the vocals will cut through, and whatever the instrumentation that needs to cut through,
I think that's really, really good. Okay, last thing I'll cut you. Oh, what was you about to say?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna cut. I was gonna press you on one more thing, and then I promise you I'm gonna leave you alone. One more thing. So another controversy that I hear a lot about is gospel engineers using mixing templates. And there's a lot of controversy around that as well. That I hear a lot of people that talk about in the same conversation that they talk about drum samples, they'll use the same arguments for engineers that use templates to say that there's no creativity that kind of builds from that, because it's like cookie cutter, right? You're using the same things. I met one engineer. I won't give his name. He's a great engineer. I mean, actually really dope engineer, does really good work, has worked with some really great artists. But he talked about how he literally, every song, he doesn't use a template. He literally builds and mixes every song from scratch, drags the files in, just nothing on the channels, nothing. He just starts from top down and just mixes and just adds what he feels works during that. And he approaches it that way with every song. He doesn't use a template. That's his process. And he does amazing mixes. This is not no detriment to it at all. But I was just saying that's his process, But he's talked about those things and like, I don't use templates, da, 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 da. So I'd be curious to kind of pick your brain on that. Like, how do you feel? Or because I know you have a template that you kind of use for, all of your mixes. So what is in your space to kind of speak to that, what you think about like using templates and mixing?
Well, there's no, okay. First of all, I mean, the template is there just to make it easier to set up the drums, the bass, the aux stuff, and the vocals. Mm-hmm. It's not like the EQ is set the same from song to song. That the EQ is straight up. There's nothing. When we put something in there.
Yeah.
In the template, it's not like the EQ is set up for
this is the EQ that I use on bass on everything.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't even have the same. In fact, my template is so simple, it doesn't have. I end up adding all the stuff as I'm going.
Yeah,
like all the extra things that aren't in the template, I'm constantly changing.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's some overall EQ or something that's on the snare or something every time. That'd be ridiculous because every song is a little bit different. It's only to to make it easier logistically to have the drums in this and have a you know a aux for the drums and an aux for the vocal and whatever, and
because you have all of those things routed,
and
right?
you know I'll turn off some of the plugins, like just turn them off so I can hear what the original sound sounds like, of course.
Yeah.
And then if I think it needs something, then I turn it on and then I EQ it and whatever and change it. So the templates just to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I mean, technically you could call an SSL console a template if you were, back in the day when you worked on a console, you had all the EQs and all the compressors in front of you.
The same compressor.
And you had the middle section of the console was where all your subgroups were.
Yeah.
And so you would assign your drums to this subgroup, to this group. We're working the same way that we worked. I worked the same way as I did in 1985 as I do now with Pro Tools.
Yeah.
It's the SSL was the template. You had to push up the faders every time, but once you saved the first, the fader levels, you could actually save the fader levels and the rides and stuff. You could only save the EQ by.
Today, I want to introduce to you Loop Elements Pro. This represents a very innovative new way of using loops. And guess what? It's standalone, not only as a plugin, but it's also standalone outside of the DAW, which means you can now use loop elements in your live performance. This isn't just a plugin. It's the ultimate tool for creatives and producers. Whether you're layering loops, creating click track, creating beats, building arrangements, soundscapes, Loop Elements Pro gives you the power to create without limits. Loop Elements Pro is now available. Go get it now.
Bringing it back one channel at a time on a screen. It took like an hour to do that.
Yeah.
But still, you would never use the same template for every song.
Yeah.
So the template was the board.
Right.
And so Pro Tools, my template is just my board.
Yeah.
And yes, I use a lot of the same EQs, but they're not cranked from song to song exactly the same from one project to another.
That's good.
But maybe the mixes may sound similar.
Yeah.
Because in my brain, I'm trying to fill up the space in a certain way from top to bottom, or bottom to top, really.
Yeah.
Because the bass and the low end are very important to me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to fill up the space from bottom to top and from left to right, and the depth. And I'm constantly changing that as I go.
Yeah.
So the template is no different than a board.
I agree. I totally
It's not. I mean, I'm sure if you were doing, let's just say you were doing some pop stuff or something, and it had the same kind of drums, like programmed drums on every song.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could set up a template for for certain pop artists that you would do the same, and it would work.
Yeah.
But it changes constantly with live drums. You're constantly changing it.
Yeah.
So the template is just to aid you to start the mix.
It's organization, right?
It's more organizational than
your drums are gonna go here.
Yeah.
They're already routed to whatever subs that I'm gonna use for my verbs that I'm gonna use. Same with the vocals. It's everything.
But they're not like it's not like I have the reverb set up. I'm changing it constant. When I start, it's pretty much flat, and I go, okay, these drums sound terrible, or these drums sound great. Let's just add a little bit of EQ here and a little bit of here.
Wow.
That's
amazing. I think that's the. I wanted you. I said it though and approached it the way I approached it. I kind of made it a little bit over the top because I wanted you to explain it the way that you explained it that's so powerful. I never thought about it from the standpoint of it's like a SSL. It's like a mix board. Those things don't change, and so why would I go into a DAW environment and expect for it not to be to expect it like everything to be like so fluid, the way we flow with everything. Yeah. But I love the way that you put it, and it's the analogy, and I think too because you're mixing like hundreds of songs a year, right? I mean, how do you keep up with that bandwidth of what you need from said artist, from said label, whatever your deliverables are on a constant basis? if you have to sit there and set up
every time,
start from literal zero on every mix, I mean, you wouldn't get anything done. It'd take you. I'm impressed. 3 weeks to do 10 songs.
The guy that you're talking about, I'm impressed that he can do that every time. You know, if he's doing 100 songs a year, that's impressive.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised how many he's doing, but I think that's more where I look at it and where the value, even my own template, how it's set up. It's just there. It's just organized the way that I like for things. Or like there's a certain place I like to see my drums and how I want to tackle things from the top all the way down to my vocal. And I know where the vocal is going to be in, like when I'm scrolling up, I know where it's going to be. I know where the bass is going to be in my template. So if I hear something I
can go to it really quickly. My template is so simple compared to, I've seen templates of people, you know, some of their templates where they're running all the music through this thing and all these things, you know, all these different auxes and stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's really complicated. Yeah. I don't want to get into that. You know?
I saw one guy, one of my good friends, he does film, so I understand why he does this, but he takes the same approach to when he mixes a record, like a music record. But his template is set up to where as he's mixing, it's recording the stems in at the, like he's got a whole bus at the top that has his, like, you know, whatever the stem's going to be, drums, whatever, and he's got subs of those. And so as he's mixing, he hits the record button as he's mixing. So that way, as he's mixing, he's literally printing the stems as they sound at that moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Throughout the song. So when he gets to the end, when the mix is finished, he can literally run it down from top and print his stems at the same time once the mix is done. Really, really cool, really, really intuitive. I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. Now, what it took him, like when he showed me, attempted to show me the setup on it. I was like, nah, man, I'll let you have that. That's kind of complicated because he's got it routed in a way that's like really, really weird.
Film guys do that.
Yeah.
I know. And it's like there's a engineer, Fred Paragano. He owned Paragon Studios in Nashville for years. And but he's a film mixer in LA now, and he told me sometimes they have like 750 tracks in film. Huge. And they do exactly what you're saying. They print in stems all the time so that they can go back and just punch into one spot. You know, like if they change the dialogue, they add that track and then they go to the spot and then I guess they punch in and change the stem in those sections. Yeah. I mean, you have to be really organized to mix film.
Oh man!
I mean, it's way more complicated than mixing
music. It's a whole different animal.
I mean,
but
hundreds
he pulls
of
that
tracks.
same. He has his template. He has his music mixing template set up the same way. Because he learned that framework from film, and then he just brought it over to whenever he still does more film than he does music.
Yeah.
But whenever he does get a music project to mix, it's like, he just throws it in his template, and he's able to kind of expedite like several different things. Because if you're mixing, like you said, 700 track things, a little 100 track or 50 60 track, you know, gospel song is not gonna, you know, he's not gonna sneeze at that, you know what I mean? But it's just really cool, man. Yeah. To see those things. I just wanted to kind of pick your brain on those things because I know it's something that I've thought about. I was like, I'm gonna ask Yosh what he, you know, I'm gonna let him, as being the guy that's mixed 50 years now worth of mixing that you've done? How long have you been doing it? Is it?
Well, I mean, I started in 78. So
almost 50 years.
40 some, yeah.
Yeah, almost 50. So in 2028, you'll be 50 years in the game.
Yeah, and I'm only 25.
It's amazing how time works.
Crazy. It's strange.
50 years, almost. I'm gonna call it. We're still. It's only a few years away, so I'm gonna call it 50 years worth of gospel. Or not just gospel, just recording.
I guess it's 40
mixing.
6 years.
46.
Is that right?
46 years.
You're better at math than I am.
Yeah, 46 years worth. That, you know, we round up. I just round up. Anything over 5, you just round up to the next number, next whole number. So yeah, man, of just experience, just wrapped into, you know, one whole.
And I'm learning something new every day. That's what I try to learn, something new every day while I'm working, and maybe try something different just to make it better, you know. Wow. And I learn from young people, and young people keep me youthful. Wow. You know, working with guys like you, even though they're old already. But no, everyone's that I work with is usually younger than I am.
Yeah.
And it keeps you on your toes.
Gosh.
And I need all these guys around me to educate me on the technology.
Wow. So as we kind of close it down and get to the end of it, if you had to give advice to the younger generation, the younger guys just getting into this thing, maybe somebody's looking in their what advice? Okay, I'll put it to you this way. This is the best way to put it. What would
I hate giving advice?
Okay, well, but we're not going to let you give advice to mainstream people. I'm going to frame it like this: if old Yosh had to give advice, had to tell young Yosh something, like about the audio, I know you probably think of 1,000 things in life, like invest in Apple. You probably think of 1,000 things you probably
invest in Apple. Yes,
should have done in your life. But music wise, in your career, if you were sitting talking to young Yosh, what was it, 28? Or you say he was like, how old when you really got into it? Like 25 25-year-old Yosh.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Wet behind the ears, no experience. He just got his tech, 4-track recorder. He's recording some stuff in his some cool stuff in his basement. He's thinking about going up to the studio and knocking on the door and asking him, can he sit in on a session? And you're that guy that he knocks on the door and he just says, hey man, tell me how I do this thing. What are you telling that guy?
What do I tell that guy? That it always takes 5 years longer than the 2 years that you thought it was going to take to achieve the goal, or maybe even as long as 8 years, or as long as 46 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it always takes longer, but you got to get your, I know everyone said this a million times. You got to get your 10,000 hours in.
That's a real thing.
And you really, it's a real thing. You have to do that. You have to do something every day to get good at it. And so if you're going to concentrate on this one thing, then concentrate on it intently for a year or two, so that you really get good at it. I mean, every single day, or at least 5 days a week, but I think back, back in those days, it was 7 days a week. It was every day. There was no breaks.
Wow.
I'd work in the studio from 8 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning every day, practically. Wow. Because you were like, at that time, you had to do the recording and all that other stuff and all the technical stuff of learning how to align tape machines and all that stuff. But today you have to immerse yourself into the recording aspect, the mixing aspect, and learning all these different. Today you have to learn all the plugins and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you have to read about all that stuff. You have to. I guess today you would just, use YouTube or whatever to find out information, but there's a lot of bad information too. Or, like you hit it earlier. You're talking about, it's not just about the gear and it's about all the experiences.
Yeah.
Read about the experiences of producers and engineers from the past. Wow. Read about how they approach things. Their approach is what matters. Read Quincy Jones's biography or something, find out how they made records and apply it to how you can make records today. You'll find it's mostly about interpersonal relationships between you as an engineer and the producer, and you and the engineer and the musicians, and the psychological aspects of getting a performance out of somebody. A lot of people will just say, "Oh, go play,
yeah.
go play that," but give them no direction.
Yeah.
Or if if that particular drummer or bass player is intuitively can play the best thing, don't get in their way.
Yeah.
Know when to not get in their way. Know when to tell them, no, don't play that, play this.
Wow.
So I don't know, I'm kind of rambling.
No,
but it's about
I'm eating it up. I'm sucking it up.
Today's making records is so different than it was before, because you can just send things out to a drummer and send things out to a bass player.
Yeah.
But at least try to give them a little direction, communicate with them where you're going with the track, and just don't throw a bunch of stuff into a track and then try to sort it out later. Or if you are that kind of producer, which it can be good too. If you want to just throw everything, the icing in the cake, now you need to edit it all. You need to sort it out once you get it all back and make sure it's the right stuff and make sure it fits in the track.
That's good.
So, but it's mainly about doing things over and over again and learning every day, as far as engineering.
Wow.
That's about all I got to say right now.
I think that's gold, man. That's the goal. I said, I love hearing your stories. You'll just it just I know it for you. It just happens. It's like second nature.
And there's a lot of them I can't remember. Right?
I know, but
I'll come up with them.
But not even just your own personal experiences. You'll just you'll just be working on something, and then you'll be like, Quincy Jones was in the studio with XX guy, and he was doing something, and they said, that, and then the drummer so and so was in there. He was playing this thing, and then Quincy told him blah 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 blah. And I love listening to those stories because it's like you said, it's just exactly what you said. It's you studied the craft, and you studied the people that have been great in your thing, and you pull from that. And while it may seem like a random story, it's probably something that's relative to what you're doing on a Tamla Man song right now.
Exactly.
That you're mixing that thing, and then that experience comes up in your brain. You know what? Gotta get this groove right here. Something about this groove right here. Because I remember when Quincy was talking about this guy, and he told this guy groove was the thing that and then you bring that into your own thing. So I think it's, as I said it earlier, it's a lost art that we do because we get lost online with YouTube and all of these.
And I don't know what the best way to do it today is, but when I was younger, when I first started, we had things like Mix Magazine and Modern Recording. I had
Mix Magazine,
Modern
Tape
Recording,
Op.
And Tape Op. Well, we didn't have Tape Op, but there were about 4 magazines back then in the early '80s and late '70s, and I would read every article, every single one, and about all the gear and how they worked in the studio to pick up techniques. And I assume the best way to do it is through YouTube today, but you can still read online stuff.
Yeah,
Mix Magazine still exists,
and they have an archive of all of their stuff on their website. You can go and download it all now.
It's a great source.
I think
to read about how they did these records.
But I think it's that I think we need, and what I've tried to do. And that's what I've tried to with gospel producers and all of the things that we do. Yeah, we do plugins, we do all these things, but we've done the classes, and a part of that is like YouTube gives you. It's such a. I'll be honest, it's a trash heap worth of stuff.
Sure,
it's just a lot of and I know there's great creators. I'm not like dunking on any like people that create, because a lot of good information, a lot of stuff like that, but to really find what you need and learn, you gotta dig through a ton of like garbage. Because one guy will say, well, when you're doing a snare, do it like this. When you're mixing a snare, when you're recording a thing, do it like this. And another guy saying, well, no, actually you should do it like this. And then you got another guy that's sitting there looking at both of them, and he's commenting on, he's not even recording, he's just commenting on like, this guy said do this and this guy said do this, and they're both wrong, and this is why they're wrong. So you got to dig through all of that to find the stuff that you're talking about.
Right.
But I think the real solution, if I had to prescribe it to anybody, I think we need to get offline, and go sit in sessions. There's sessions and things that are happening everywhere in your city, in your town.
If you can do that, that's the best. That's the best way to do it. But I mean, is there other places? I mean, obviously, I had the opportunity to be able to sit in on sessions, and in Nashville, in the days when the studios were, the studios were working, people, interns could go in and watch it. But I don't know how you.
Well, it's not even. Today. I mean, some of the big box studios are not like, they're it's a dying like genre.
It's gone.
But even if it's not that, like I've went and sat with other producers in their house, because that's where the new studio is now.
Yeah, if you can do that.
It's in a guy's house. But even if you can't sit with an Aaron Lewis, or you can't sit with a Sanchez Harley or guys like that in their own space and watch them work. I mean, you could easily find whoever that person of influence that you respect. He may not be a big level producer or engineer or something. It's just the guy that does what you like and it sounds good and you love the way that they produce. Just do what you did.
Yeah.
Go knock on their door. Go,
right.
Say, hey man, I love the way your drums sound. I watched you record this thing and I've watched it. I love the way that you do things. Do you mind the next time you're recording something if I come sit in and just watch you do what you do?
Yeah, that's what people.
I think that would be amazing. And all they can do is say, nah, man, I don't do that kind of thing. And then you just go knock on another door.
Yeah, you knock on another door, or when the opportunity presents itself, like if you knocked on the door and they say, I can't do this right now, but maybe in a month or two, then come back and bug them again.
Because that you said you told a couple of stories like that along this pod that you said, you just kept knocking on a door until somebody said, yeah, man, come on in, come on, come on. Because you're going to find somebody that's willing to. The truth of the matter is most producers, most musicians, most of us are very conceited. And we love to talk about what we do and how we do it and why we did it. Most of us are. There are a handful of guys that are like, I'm not going to show you that. I don't want you to know that. But generally, you'll find because we don't get a lot of attention. Right. Most of us, we produce this stuff in our bedrooms and our basements, and it goes out to the world, and people hear it and they love it and enjoy it, and nobody knows who we are, nobody knows what we do or why we do it. Yeah. So if another young guy comes up to us and says, "Man, how did you get the da 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 da? Where did you find that sound from on that thing?" Da 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 da. Like we're like, yes, hey, I used a Nord or I used a da 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 da. You know what I mean? Like we get animated. We love to share, those things. So I think that's what we need to do, even if it's virtually, even if you can't, because the internet gives us a space to where you can even connect with somebody on Zoom.
Yeah, that's true.
You can FaceTime, like, hey man, can I FaceTime you like while you're working? I have a friend that does that. The guy that we was talking to yesterday, he FaceTimes me every day. And most of the time I'm not doing anything. Not anything significant.
Yeah.
I'm working on stuff, but he's just there and he's watching what I'm doing. And then I'm asking him what he's doing and he's telling me about dope stuff that he's doing and I'm learning from him.
Right.
And then he's watching what I'm doing and he's learning stuff from me. And it's an information exchange and we're iron is sharpening iron. You know what I mean?
We have the tools.
We have the tools, but I think it needs to go. I don't think you can learn. You can learn, but I don't think you can learn what you really want to learn watching a 10-minute YouTube video and just say that you got it. I think you got to get in front of somebody. You got to get around somebody that's doing stuff.
And then you just have to do it yourself. Once you get a basic understanding, then you just have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
You do, and you just
go record drums there. If you got it, that's the benefit of this society. Like, if you got an X32 at your house, then you can plug up the, your drums and stuff to it. And you can just, even if you're not recording records for anybody, you could just be recording every day.
Absolutely.
And just learning what it's supposed to sound like. But anyway, man, I think we did.
We've covered a lot, and we'll cover more on the next time. This
has been fun. You're in North Carolina, so I could just next time I'll drive down to you. Just drive down there and I'll sit in your studio and learn.
All right.
I'll sit and learn and stuff. But appreciate you taking out the time out of your amazingly busy schedule to sit down and talk with me about
always, John.
All this stuff.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Anything that you want to tell the people about how to connect with you, if they want to hire you to mix maybe, or if they want to do where they need to go, how do they connect with you? How do they do those things like that?
Just Google me. You'll find me.
Just Google me.
You just there's, if you get to my website, the email's there. It's easy. It's easy. As long as you can spell my name. Really, you can just find it with YOSH. John YOSH, even though it's spelled JASZCZ.
Yeah.
So,
well, man, I appreciate you. And I appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. This is the Hangout Podcast.
Same here. This was fun.
This is what we do. We hang out. It's totally impromptu. There's no agenda. Just two guys.
We're just hanging out.
talking about the stuff that we love.
But now I have to go do some tweaks for Tamala Man.
Uh-oh. Well, I'm going to let him do that. I appreciate you guys. You guys make sure that you check out gospelproducers.com. Check out what we're doing. Check out all the other episodes. We got some great episodes with some great people on the channel that you want to check out. And we'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out.
Peace.
I'll let you boy.
Bye.
Yo, thank you for watching that exclusive clip from the Hangout Podcast. We drop these on the channel on Wednesdays, and we appreciate you guys for taking out the time and watching this. If you're interested in seeing more of these exclusive interviews that we have, make sure you check out the playlist over here. If you're interested in taking your production, mixing, or whatever to the next level, make sure you hit the links down below in the description. All right, we'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out. Holla at your boy.